Hi, I'm Jenny. I'm a lecturer at the South University of Science and Technology. Today, we're going to look at two useful reading strategies, skimming and scanning. When you're reading, you don't have to read everything with the same amount of care and attention. Sometimes, you need to be able to read the text very quickly. Skimming and scanning can help us really fast. Let's start with skimming. What is skimming? Skimming is a reading strategy that helps us find the gist or the main idea of the text fast. And why do we skim? Well, we skim to read and understand more quickly. Skimming helps us do the following things much faster. First, it helps us know what kind of reading it is. For example, are we reading a news article, an essay, or a fiction story, or something else? Second, it helps us get the main idea fast, especially for long text. Third, it helps us quickly decide if the text is important or interesting for you to read. But when do we skim? We skim before we read for details. Also, we skim when we have a lot to read but not much time. We might use skimming to see what's in the news, in the paper, or on the website, to browse through a book to see if you want to read it, to look through the television guide to see what's on one evening, to flick through the catalogue to see what's on offer, to look through the options given on the Baidu search to see what size it suggests, and so on. How do we skim? We only read the most important parts. The title, the first paragraph, last paragraph, pictures, headings, and the first sentence of other paragraphs. How do we apply skimming to our academic research? Before we start writing an academic project paper, we need to read some materials. For instance, if you find a chapter of a book that you think is relevant, you'll skip to that chapter and just read the opening paragraphs. Read the concluding paragraphs and then think, is this relevant? If it is, you might choose to photocopy that chapter so that you can make your own notes on it. Skimming can help us decide if the reading material is useful, which means it should relate directly to the topic. It should also be credible and recent. Let's take reading a research paper, for example. We can first read the title, author, date, and publisher. This helps us to find both the relevance and the credibility. For example, looking at the title, we can see if the title is related to our research topic. Looking at the author, we can see if the author is from a reputable higher education institution, which lends credibility to this paper. Looking at the publisher and the publishing date, we can see if it is published on a reputable academic journal and if it is recent. Now we can continue skimming to get a better understanding of the content of the paper. Read the abstracts to get the overview of the paper, then move on to the introduction, as this will outline the aim and the structure of the paper. After that, let's jump to the conclusion, as this will summarize the major findings in relation to the aim. The next step is to skim the rest of the paper, looking at headings, subheadings, diagrams, graphs, charts, illustrations, and their captions, as these tell the structure of the paper. The final step in skimming would be sentences in each paragraph, which are most likely to contain the main points. With this skimming, we now have a good overview of the content and the structure. To sum up, skimming is useful when we need to get an overview of the main idea of the paper. Okay, now let's talk about the other fast reading strategy, scanning. What is scanning? Scanning is rapidly running your eyes over the text in order to locate specific details. Why do we scan? We scan to find specific information quickly in order to answer reading questions or to determine relevance. And when do we scan? We might use scanning to look for a word in a dictionary or index, to find an address or a phone number in a directory, to check what time your program is on television, to look up details or prices in a catalog, to pick out the website you want from options on the Baidu search, and so on. How do we scan? When we scan, we need to decide which specific information we need to find. For example, is it the year, statistics, percentages, or proper names? Then, we can navigate the paper based on the overview of the structured paper, which we'll find out by skimming. While we navigate in the paper, we look for keywords or phrases. Sometimes, if we are lucky, the keywords we are looking for are signaled in some way. For example, in bold or between dashes. In scanning, we can also highlight transition words. For example, however, on the other hand, unlike. This helps us notice the connection between paragraphs and locate possible evidence or examples. We can highlight special terms while scanning. For example, technical words, definitions. We can pay attention to reference words too. For example, this, those, and such. How do we scan an academic paper or a book? Remember that an academic book isn't written in a way that it needs to be read from page 1 to the last page. It's actually written to allow you to dip in and find the relevant information. When scanning a book chapter or the paper, we just look at the page and we just don't even really pay attention to it. We just very closely look at the key terms within it. We're looking for any statistics, any details, any particular names or keywords. So it is not appropriate if we need to gain in-depth knowledge of a text. To scan an academic paper, first, we need to identify what we are looking for. This would be key terms or phrases, concepts, or particular section. For example, if you want to know how many participants were involved in the study, you can go directly to the method section. Next, scan the text by running your eyes quickly over the page, looking only for the information you need. Ignore everything else and don't read every word. When you find what you're looking for, read the information or sentence around it. Or finally, decide if a paper is relevant to your purpose. Does it answer your questions? Is it specific enough to your task? If yes, read in more details. If not, we discard it and move on. So, let's sum up. Scanning is a useful strategy when you need to find specific information quickly, not when you need to understand the whole text. I hope these reading strategies help with your reading in the future. Thank you.